All right, we'll go ahead and get started. It's Sandy here. Welcome everybody to the monthly provincial webinar. As you all know, it's May the 4th, and so you might see some theme that's going on around May the 4th be with you. I see we have a few people that are like, my co-host is Luke Skywalker today, so I'm pretty excited to have that going. Thanks again for joining us. The call is being recorded today. Just move on to the next slide. And as everybody has seen before, or those of you that are new, we have our mission and vision and value statements written up on this slide. I won't read them to you. You guys can read them yourselves, but just so you know what our mission, vision, and values are. And I think Angeal's going to give us some Zoom tips before we carry on.
Yeah, that's right. So if you open up the participants tab, if you can't already see it, there's you'll find your name. It should say me in brackets next to it. So if you want to raise your hand so that we can unmute you, that's the best way to do that. And we'll keep an eye on who we need to be unmuting because we want this to be a really interactive session. So if you're using your phone, you can use the same thing, and but your number will be right at the bottom, because when you're watching the Zoom webinar, you can't it doesn't know that it's you, and so it doesn't tell you me. You just have to find your phone number. So hopefully that's not too complicated. But yeah, if you could raise your hand when you want to speak, we can unmute you.
All right, and so as we get started, if you'd use the chat feature on the bottom, and we'll give you more instructions as we go forward on that raising your hand. But for now, can you just type in your name and your organization and or the organization you represent. For example, if you're Jessica Rome from North Valley, or and if you're also in a room with other people with you, just let us know how many people are with you at your location. And there we go. Excellent. Camrose and St. Albert and Slave Lake. Remember how slow we used to be in getting these to come before, guys? And look at us raw. Camrose, Grand Prairie. Excellent. Calgary Mosaic. Edmonton North. Calgary Foothills. Red Deer. Exciting. Thanks very much for doing that. And just feel free to keep doing that as we move on to the next slide. So as we said, Angel and I kind of started this whole May the 4th be with you at Leeds Forum this past year. We decided, since this was being done on May the 4th, that we would definitely want to carry on the theme. So I've relied heavily on this team, the team, to add some graphics to this. So I'm going to be as surprised as everyone as to what comes out with the next slide. All right, go ahead. So many Yodas out there. So we really did want to talk about this being sort of a PDSA for the Practice Facilitator Network. So our plan is, we're testing live question and answers. So there's lots of information out there. You guys are doing lots of things through this COVID-19 pandemic, and lots of things are happening. So we want to make sure that we're hearing more voices. So what are we doing this time? Our try is going to be having the webinar be quite a bit more interactive. So you would have heard Angel give you the instructions on putting your hand up so that Leanne can unmute us as we go along. And so our study is going to be, when we ask our first question, do we have crickets, or do we have lots of lively study, lively discussion and interaction? And our action at the end of that will be, we'll either adapt, adopt, or abandon our technique. So let's just see how it goes. You guys all know about the model for improvement. So we're doing our own little PDSA cycle on this. So hope you can help us out and be patient as we go. All right, so we're going to start with a poll everywhere question. As you can see, the instructions are at the top, so you can either respond to pollev.com 212-522-PFN331, or you can text PFN331 to 37607 to join. And I'm just going to pause there for about 15 seconds, which, oh, here they're starting to come. So but if you, I'm going to ask the question, and if you want to take some time, we'll wait for you to get some responses in. So what is one good thing about the pandemic in your personal life? Look at all this FaceTiming and people with clean houses and garages. Yeah, sweatpants, that's going to be hard to give up. Yeah, more time with kids. Yeah. Yeah, not putting on makeup. Yeah. Family time. We're seeing some themes, and it always seems to be about time, doesn't it? That we don't have more self-care, lunchtime with family. I would even include lunchtime period. Cooking dinner from scratch. Yeah. Understanding what's important. House training your pup. Great time to be home to do that. Organized house, yes. Yeah, less driving. I keep looking at the price of gas and thinking, it's cheap, but I don't have to go anywhere. Yeah, family time. Really, we have gotten our priorities back in shape. Yeah, commuting, gas. Importance of health. Yeah, more time to rest, recharge, clean. Don't have to do hair. Ooh, I've been scared of that one. Nobody's giving up someone's not going to give up the sweatpants and yeah, lunch, commuting. Yeah, it's amazing how much time we spend in our cars, time with pets, time to slow down, having more time to do me. Cooking. So we're seeing some themes coming out. Yeah, savings, that's what I feel too. I got into the online shopping yet, so no, I am not accepting that my line down the middle is white, gray hair. I'm not. Hobbies, great. Yeah, lots of themes coming out. Yeah, more sleep. It often seems to be, oh, cocktail hour. Yeah. Yeah, it often seems that the themes that are coming out really are around time, aren't they? And having more time to connect with family and more time. They all seem to be focused around that time thing. Yeah, and homeschooling, well, good for you. That I'm sure glad I don't have to do that. All right. Thanks, everybody. Okay, let's move on. So this is going to be your opportunity to put your hand up. And just as Angeal had mentioned in the participant tab at the very bottom, there's a little thing on the right-hand side that says raise hand. So if you have a story about this, you feel free to raise your hand, and Leanna is going to be monitoring that, and Angeal is going to be monitoring that. So here's the first question, and this is for everybody. We are all the Yodas out there. So what is one way the pandemic has positively impacted a process for at least one of the clinics you work with? We're watching hands. We don't want that. We don't want crickets. Oh, we have hands up. I see, and I don't know what order they came up with. So can I first call on Neil?
Hi. Yeah, so we've had this time we've had some more uptake with the CII CPAR program, so that's been exciting for us. Some clinics are taking advantage of that time to also do some panel cleanup. So those are a couple things we had underway that seem to have gained steam in the current day.
Excellent.
Neil,
thanks.
Are you from the St. Albert and Sturgeon PCN?
Yes, Neil is. That is exactly where he's from.
Oh yeah, I'm having trouble muting and unmuting. Yes, I am.
No worries.
Excellent. And I think we have another hand up. We have, well, maybe first I'll ask if any questions for Neil about that. Maybe you can use the chat function as well. All right, well, let's move on to Rebecca.
Hi. One of the nice things that we've seen kind of across a lot of the clinics we work with is a change in the process of how we're connecting as big multidisciplinary teams. So we've had the benefit of, now that everything's virtual, getting to connect with our teams virtually as well. And it's something that everyone's liked, to the point where I've heard a couple of physicians ask if we can continue doing this once even the rest of the world kind of goes back to normal. So it's been really nice to connect more often and more frequently with those people.
Excellent. So what are you using then, Rebecca, to connect virtually? How are you doing it?
We have a combination depending on the clinic. We use Microsoft Teams within our own PCN. So we have that opportunity to extend invitations outward. We also have on-call or patient connect that we can use when we're meeting with a bigger team.
And so you're meeting with them more often, and is that because they're, like, how did that happen that all of a sudden you can meet with them more often? Is it, do you know?
I think so far we've seen, it's always been something we've offered, like we're happy to meet virtually, but everyone likes kind of that face-to-face. And so I think, unfortunately, this was kind of the kick. Lots of people got to try it. And now that they've tried it, it just, you don't have any travel time and you don't have time away where you can just do a 20-minute check-in really quickly. And so that because of that, those are the ones that they said they'd like to keep doing this, and like staggering it with in-person meetings. But I think a lot of them, it's been kind of, just they had to dive off the deep end with their eyes closed into trialing it, and realized it wasn't so bad. So
great, excellent. And I see we have a question from Lori Choma. She said, and it's to everyone, and you can chat these in if you want to. Interesting. What tools are others using to connect with clinic teams? Microsoft Teams, Rebecca, you said you were using, and she didn't catch the other tool that you mentioned, and I'm afraid I didn't either. So you can even chat that in. And I think the other hand we saw up, oh, it's called Patient Connect or On Call. Thanks very much, Rebecca, for that. And I think the other hand we had up was Charlotte Thompson.
Hi there. So we have a newer clinic that we were having some difficulties with getting the clinic app and the PCN working together, and this actually helped us to engage that partnership, and the clinic staff were very willing to get information from our primary care nurse on up-to-date information about what's happening with COVID and what are some of the policy changes and procedure changes that were happening on a daily, sometimes hourly basis. And so what our PCN nurse there found is that they definitely have a more cohesive team at the clinic and are actually talking more and working as a team. So that's really great.
Excellent. Thanks, Charlotte. Anybody else that would like to share what is one way the pandemic has positively impacted a process for at least one of the clinics you work with? I'll look to see if there's any other hands up, and we'll move on to the next question. I hope I'm seeing them all. Nope, looks like that's it. So if we'll just move on. Oh, here we are. Look, faster than the eye can see. So here's question number 2. How have good panel processes supported work at this time? So again, think about that and put your hand up if you can think of some ways that having good panel processes have supported the work at this time. All right, Somebody's keeping track of our PDSA cycle for us here. We know, oh, Matt, we've got a hand up. So Matt's going to share that answer with us.
Yeah, so I guess one way in my improvement facilitate or practice facilitating experience, like recently, in the past, some of our clinics kind of felt like all this extra panel work was redundant or extra work, and they weren't seeing a direct benefit necessarily. Like, oh, we're already super organized and et cetera, et cetera. I guess I didn't see the purpose of all this organization and labeling. And then since this whole COVID thing began, those patient labels and statuses and patient lists and accurate searches, they've made the lives of these clinics so much easier, like especially for patients that require regular visits and now they're not able to go into the clinics. They can reliably check on these lists and searches to identify the patients that they need to get in contact with. So that was kind of an aha moment for some clinics that I work with, like how a panel process supported work during this COVID time.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think that's excellent. I also see we have another hand up, Melissa Simon from Edmonton West.
Yeah, just one small thing that we were encouraging in clinics with the patient confirmation validation was, asking for phone numbers and emails. And a lot of our clinics were getting emails for over a year, 2 years now. So when it came to setting up Zoom calls and sending out patient resources, it wasn't a scramble for, thousands and thousands of patients to get their emails. It's something they had already been working on.
Excellent. Yeah, exactly. I think such good points. And I see that Rosie's already also put here verification and attachment. If they've been doing that, they have had their patient's contact information updated, which has been extremely important in order to reach out to patients. So that's something that I've seen as well, is that especially when Babylon reared its head and all the doctors were up in arms about that, and then I was able to kind of pull it back and say to them, just remember that you know who your patients are. You don't have 6,200 patients on your list anymore. You now actually have this clean list of 1,200 and how many patients, or 500 patients, whatever it is, and you know them. So they were really grateful for having that really established list. And I think you would have seen that in lots of the letters that went in about that. So, we know who our patients are. This isn't the first time we're seeing them. I could give you a list of all my patients. Angela's also said here, being able to pull data on our most vulnerable patients and do outreach call for wellness checks. And isn't that important? And isn't that really what Patients Medical Home is all about, is caring for patients even when they're not in the clinic. So I'm sure patients have felt pretty good about that.
Yeah, and it looks like Ariel, who's from Kalina country, I believe.
Okay.
She said something very similar, that patient outreach lists have been well managed by keeping their panels clean. So they're reaching the correct patients and doing so with ease. So that's great. And,
Yeah, excellent.
having those panel management processes in place means, it makes life easier for you.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed that, Ariel. Thank you for sharing that. All right, I'll just have another quick look. Are any other hands up? Any other chats? Any other words of wisdom from any of our Yodas? All right, let's move on to question number 3. So what opportunity or opportunities has your PCN identified?
And I used this graphic on this slide because I felt like it was the whole team.
Yes, excellent. Perfect. I'll just pause for a minute and see if we have any hands up. I know you guys have lots of stories out there because I hear all the good work that everybody's doing. Ah, Majeen, there you go. Thank you. We'll just have to get Majeen unmuted.
Yeah. So,
there you go.
Hello? Yeah, you guys can hear me.
There we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I'm with the Edmonton Southside PCN, and one of the first things that happened during all of these changes were just because of the displacement of a lot of the staff, because we are a decentralized PCN, there were a lot of the MDTs were finding it difficult to know exactly how to support clinics, and a lot of people had a lot of ideas, and of course a lot of clinics had a lot of different just a lot of emails going in, and so one nurse might have suggested, like, let's look at patients that are over 70, and with all those different groups, just to keep the emails a little bit at a minimum. What we did was create a little bit of a handout summary that outlines all those different ideas into one concrete resource that we could then send out to our clinic, and then for them to decide what would best be what would work best for them, given wherever they're at in their in adjusting. So parts of those groups were, of course, adults over the age of 70, but also extending a lot of that transitions of care work outreach to include maternity patients, and also immunocompromised populations, diabetes follow-up appointments, hypertension. And so we were able to create a lot of webinars that dealt with identifying those patients who are at risk, and also just overall proactive care in this time, especially because there are less patients coming in due to the physical distancing. And so, yeah, so it's worked really well, and we've been able to get a lot of uptake when it comes to that, and it's just been easier to communicate with clinic teams because of that.
Excellent. Thanks, Jean. Yeah, that's really good. Matt, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I have another response, I guess, for this question. Similar to Majin, we're also decentralized. We have our main office, but all of our physicians are spread across our city. And I guess some opportunities that we came up with is our internal QI team. We recognize that we could probably be doing better with informational continuity. So we kind of started a QI project with our after hours clinic, kind of on how do we update our community physicians if they make appointments like in our clinic at our after hours. So we've been process mapping, and I digitized those process maps just so that we can remain like connected, like through FaceTime and stuff. So we can still kind of analyze them and go through them in our Microsoft Teams meetings. And by the way, like if anybody on the Practice Facilitator Network wants to have a good program to make process maps, I can put in the chat. It's called draw.io. It's a free to use website that just, you can put together process maps in like an hour or less, super easily. So I love that program, but I'm not here to plug that.
That's helpful, though. Thanks.
It was great. And because our after hours clinic is kind of slow with traffic for patients right now, our PDSA cycles are kind of really easy to evaluate just because we're not running like full steam ahead all the time. So we don't really have that time pressure. We can kind of slowly introduce new things and slowly monitor if it's going to work, if it's not going to work. So like our QI team has been doing great stuff inside our PCN just because we have time to look at ourselves now. And another thing is we created a way for our physicians to submit their data on TNA and verification digitally now. So we no longer have to do with faxes or paper or anything. Our evaluation team came up with this awesome program that we can now send to our physician members. They submit their TNA verification improvement projects directly into our database, paperless. So we just monitor that now every week instead of having to input data one by one like we have for the last couple of years. So
Very nice.
It's probably
So a
by
couple-
far my favorite.
Nice. So a couple of questions for you, Matt, that came up on this was Kelly Hamilton asked, Matt, can you make sure that you share the link with that draw.io?
Yeah, I can type it right now.
That would be great. And Aaron Hay asked if there's a limit on how large of a process map you can make on draw.io.
So there's two ways of doing it. You can do the web-based one just by going on their website and make one in there, or you can download the app for free. I don't think there's a size limit because you just choose your paper size, like as if you were printing to a printer. So you can choose like legal paper or your regular A4 size, and then it's just a matter of how much you can fit on the paper, I guess.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's, I think there were other things that came through, but that's great, Matt. You always seem to come up with some of the technology solutions for us, and I think, oh boy, that's just great. We had something come up from Rebecca Curtis around this question as well. She said it's not new, but there's been huge emphasis on team support during COVID. And Charlotte said more physicians that are interested in starting CII-CPAR, as they're now hearing from other physicians that they're starting to get a delivery, the e-notifications about people going into emerge visits and stuff. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of that as well. I know for myself, I started out COVID with 9 physicians enrolled in CII-CPAR, and this week I'll have 19 go live. So it really has, you know, we always think, oh, they're too busy, but I'm finding right now that the physicians in my PCN aren't that busy. And so I think that that has been an opportunity that we've taken advantage of. And I usually go out and get these signatures, and we're doing a lot more virtual emailing and getting signatures back. And I'm trying to get as many of the forms filled out as I can for them. So yeah, it's kind of exciting. The other opportunity that I've had has been just like Southside, and Southside was sort of my inspiration for getting started doing some webinars. And so we've done one, and I can't for the life of me remember the name of it, but it was really tips and tricks around how can you set up your office during COVID-19? How do you do some of those things to keep everybody safe? And so I think I had about 16 of our physicians that logged on to that. And so that was really exciting. And I think they realize they're starting to recognize that QI has a huge part in this whole COVID and post-COVID. So I think the next one we're doing is next week, and yes, I guess a person should get started pretty soon, and it's going to be on outreach, just exactly the direction you went, Majeen, was, you know, really outreach. I think we're going to take a little bit different direction in that how can we support them to do some of that outreach and pull some of the lists, because we don't have people embedded in the office. We do have some remote access to the EMRs. So it's going to be on outreach, and then we're going to plug in CII-CPAR again now. I think partly because I'm getting way more comfortable with the paperwork. I don't feel any longer that I'm giving away one of my children, that I'm actually just helping them out. So that's a little bit more comfortable. Let's see. Let me see, we've got something for Matt. For physician submissions, we are using a program called REDCap. Each physician gets a unique code. They type in when they log in, then they enter their TNA directly into a database. Yeah, and we're doing that with Perform PCN right now. So it's kind of nice not too much of that work. So
yeah, because I've heard of a few PCNs across the province are using Perform PCN as well. And I think that's yeah, I think it has its pluses and minuses, but for sure.
It definitely does, but yeah. Yeah, for sure. You know, one of the other things that I'm just failing to remember the order that the slides are in, but so I might be speaking out of turn here, but as well as the webinars, we actually our elder care program, because they deal with vulnerable seniors. And so they do capacity assessments mostly. And so some of those can be fairly urgent. And so we really worked because of course that's also a vulnerable population with COVID-19 as well. So we spent a lot of time as a QI team working with that elder care program to get them maps and links to everything for them to make sure that they could go back to work safely. So they knew, the physician that's the lead physician for it, we worked with him, we sent the maps. He just literally walked in the door, put his hands up and said, tell me exactly what you want me to do. Because he was really pleased that he felt like everything was done in such a way that he was not nervous about coming back and seeing patients in person. So that was a huge win for us. And I think the other thing, I'm going to check, let me check, see if there's any other hands out, because sometimes when we start talking, it twigs other people to think about something as well. No other hands up, but I've really noticed we were talking about entering third next available. And I don't know, Angela, if you've heard about this in PCN that you're supporting, but our doctors' TNAs have gone way down. So they're at same day and next day. And so now my fear is what happens post-COVID when all those patients are still out there, and are they going to come back, and is everybody's TNA going to climb up? So we're going to really talk about that on our webinar next week. The outreach webinar is that they're that vulnerable population. I have one physician, and I know there's more than one out there, that has a return visit rate for a population of patients, and it's quite a large population of patients that come more than 12 times in a year. And obviously they're not doing that right now. So we're starting to try to work with her to say, okay, are they seeing you too much? Can we change some of these visits to virtual going forward so that it's not taking up that much in-person physician time? So I think there's a lot of conversation that's going to happen going forward.
Also some opportunities starting up for, how maybe they can change their practice when things get back a bit more normal. And
yeah, like what is the new normal? Can we change the new normal, right? Yeah.
We've got another entry on the chat from Rosie. We've been identifying CII-CPAR as an opportunity as well. We had a couple of questions. First, when you enroll physicians in CII-CPAR, have you been having to support them a lot with PIAs and any missing prerequisites? Or are they just able to complete the COP straight away? And the second question is, do you know if there's a way for them to submit the PIA amendments together with amendments required for virtual care? And I think to that second question, the answer is yes. Any PIA amendments you need to do, you can do them all in one go. So that's a yes for sure. But I'll let you answer that first question, Sandy, the one about have you had to assist them a lot with the PIAs?
We have. And so one thing that our PCN did, and I think that I'd like to take all the credit for why our numbers have gone up, but one of the things that we did last year, so up to our March 31st fiscal year end, is we hired a privacy person. I don't know what you'd call her, but her role is privacy. And we offered for all of our clinics to update their PIA. So we had about 8 clinics take us up on it to the end of March. So that's a huge, like we only have 12 clinics. So 8 of our clinics have a updated PIA. One already had a brand new one. So most of our clinics took advantage of updating that PIA. And so now they're ready. And so the next step was really easy to get them enrolled. So yeah, everybody so far that we've talked to, except for one clinic, has needed some kind of an update to their PIA, it seems.
Yeah, and Emily just shared that there's a new PIA support tool from Alberta Health, and that's now on the ACT CII-CPAR part of our website. So if you have a look there, you should be able to get a bit of extra assistance if you don't have the ability to get, additional people working on privacy for you.
Right. And I think the second part of Rosie, your question was, or do you just get them to complete the confirmation of participation? So I go ahead and have them complete that confirmation of participation anyways, because there's like, I'm this paperwork sometimes goes beyond me, and I'm just okay with that now. I've just come to accept it, and Alberta Health has come to accept the fact too that they may have to send things back to me a couple of times, and that seems to work well, because all you have to have is the amendment letter. What's it called? Sheena, help me out if you're on there, that to say that your PIA is being worked on, because there's such a backlog for those PIAs to get done anyways, that you just have to have the
Endorsement letter.
and what is it called?
Endorsement letter.
Endorsement letter.
Thanks,
Thank you.
and Tara for putting
Yeah.
that in the chat.
Oh, okay, we got it. Thank you. Yeah. So yes, so we'll we just go ahead and do that anyway. So I think I have a 19 enrolled right now, and another 11 that I'm ready to work with next. So they're almost going faster than I can keep up with them right now. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Should we go to the next question?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, and Sheena just said it's important to get that confirmation of participation in, regardless of your PIA status. And that really helps with us knowing like what the interest level is and how much support is really needed.
Perfect. And that's kind of what I was saying, but now I thought I was jumping, sort of stepping over my bounds, but that is right then, Sheena, to get the letter in and not worry about whether you have everything else in place. I think that that's good to know that that's important. And I apologize, that's my...
If you want to mute, I can do this one if you want.
That's all right. I think I turned the volume off. So now again, we have a poll everywhere question, and it's what is one thing happening in the healthcare world that you hope continues after the pandemic? Excellent. Panel management, more virtual meetings, virtual care, partnerships.
Daily huddle, that's a nice one.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad to see that daily huddle up there. I don't know if anybody else is having trouble, but I think it might be me not explaining it right, but my clinics don't seem to get huddles at all. So yeah, virtual care.
And it sounds to me like from the PCNs that I chat with that the teams are actually talking to each other more than they normally do. I mean, they might see each other in the office, but they're not necessarily like coming together and chatting as much as they are now. So
right.
That's been a benefit.
Yeah, we're seeing lots of positives about virtual care, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Workplace accommodations.
Accommodations, that's interesting. That's very interesting because we had a staff meeting the other day and everybody's loving working from home, and lots of people are saying how much more productive they feel like they're being from home. So I can see us doing a little mix of that when we go back. Yeah, flexibility.
Actually, I like that one there. They're recognizing the role of primary care in the health system. I've been noticing, there's a lot of information out there coming through to physicians and to other practitioners, and really there's some excellent acknowledgement that primary care is, really critical to the success of how we manage our way through this situation.
Yeah, for sure.
More paperless options. That's
Yeah.
a really good one too. Yeah. I was reading something the other day that was talking about how the fax was actually invented. I think it was like in the 1800s. I need to fact check that, but it kind of impressed me because I always make the joke that we're stuck in 1986 with the fax, but maybe we're stuck in 1886.
Maybe we are. We're going to have to peel those fax machines from physicians' cold, hard fingers after the QI work in day to day. I think our PCN is really starting to get an understanding of how much QI fits into almost every piece of work that happens now. So that's been a positive. Yeah, proactive care. There's
one that's just there's one that's just slipped off the screen, which was staying home if you're sick, regardless of what your role is, right? Being a bit more clear about that, I think.
Yeah. Being agile. Outreach for wellness checks. Yeah, that vulnerable population that are out there, and we don't know Are they afraid to come in, or do they think they can't come in? Because this is a real paradigm shift right now to go from, what do you mean you want to talk to your doctor on the phone? Absolutely, you can't talk to your doctor on the phone, to your doctor would like to do the appointment on the phone. So it's a real paradigm shift for lots of people. Yeah. Oh, this is QI. Yeah, love it. Yeah, excellent. Proactive care. All right, let's, yeah, these are really good. So we know there's lots out there. All right, here's question number 4. What new PMH-like tools are you using that have been developed since the pandemic started? So I'll give you a minute to think about that, and we'll be looking for some hands to be raised. Erin.
Hello.
Hi, Erin.
Hi. So I'm Erin, and I work at the Edmonton Oliver PCN. And we found ourselves, we moved fairly quickly to virtual care for our whole PCN, but we found we had a lot of our own internal scheduling coordinators and referral coordinators who had, some capacity because we were getting fewer referrals, and I'm sure everyone. So we had suddenly this opportunity to do some panel identification. We have we have three clinic groups of multiple clinics within each group that share EMR and have a large shared care panel, essentially, like, the walk-in patients come in and they go to clinic E, and those patients keep coming back and nobody's checking to see, does this person maybe belong on a panel? So we've really been honing in on that patient identification, like panel identification piece. We're not even at the phoning patients to confirm yet, but we sort of just really honed in and specified some criteria when you're looking at a list of walk-in patients, whether you may be able to appropriately attach a patient to a panel, because we've got lots of good opportunistic screening processes in place at those clinics, but only for the attached patients, not so much for the clinic patients. So now, if just by having someone go through and attach patients within the panel, they'll immediately benefit from any automated CDS queries or any existing processes that are in clinic. So without having to coordinate any new big frontline training or frontline anything, we're still catching some patients that we're hoping will filter through. So it's all very new. I don't have anything structured that we can share with everybody yet, but we're pretty excited about some of the tools that we're building to get some of these things in place without being able to go in clinic and do that team engagement. So we'll PDSA them and share with everybody. But
excellent. Thanks, Erin. All right, I'm just going to check and see if we have any other hands up. I know the one thing that we've discovered, and I think we're going to have to create something around this, maybe a little bit about validation rate, because we've discovered looking in, checking people's validation rates right now, that has really dropped the percentage since COVID-19 started. And so we think people are still thinking that the patient has to be in front of them in person to do the validation or to confirm who their family doctor is. So we're going to send out a little, some little reminder of some kind that, to explain how to do validation rate and when validation can happen, and it's not just in person. So it's just interesting to see where some of the misses might be. And I think maybe Majeen, did you have a story to share with us as well?
Yeah, I guess I talked a little bit about it when I was sharing a little bit earlier, but it was more on the handout that we created that basically summarizes all those different types of at-risk groups that could benefit for a wellness check or just additional follow-up, especially during this time. And so we found that it was really useful to just have a one-pager, essentially. Well, it's more of a two-pager, but in the handout, it essentially outlines those different groups, but it also listed all the different MDTs, all the different multidisciplinary teams that we have within our PCNs and what their role could be to support those different types of follow-up. And so that that enabled us to have just a broader conversation when it comes to team-based care. And of course, one of the questions that we kept having was all the different changes related to virtual billing codes, etc. So in order for us to remain consistent, what we did in the handout was create hyperlinks directly connecting them to the AMA so that they get the most up-to-date information when it comes to that, so that we don't so that the handout becomes as up-to-date as it can be, because we know all those things we're in the season where there's a lot of changes and all that. So yeah, so we found that very beneficial as opposed to having a slew of emails of different options, which can feel overwhelming for clinic teams when they try to make a decision in terms of what they would like to focus on.
And did you post that, Majine, on the Collaborate discussion?
We did, but we can definitely share that again.
Yeah, that would be good, maybe. Yeah.
We'll do that.
And yeah, that would be excellent to share it again. Now, I can't remember because I've borrowed it, but I can't remember who created it. It may have been Edmonton Oliver, Aaron, but it also could have been Sherwood Park, and that's preparing for the peak. That little checklist on.
Yeah, I think that was Sherwood Park.
Sherwood Park, yeah, that's another one that thanks Sheena, yeah, and Angela, it was Sherwood Park. So that's another good tool. And so lots of those have been posted on the Collaborate discussion board. Anybody else who's got anything and wants to put it on there, but I also see Lori Choma has posted that she's seen some tools appearing on the discussion board. Please chime in, and that means that we can just unmute you or unmute yourself. Please chime in and share again. This is moving so fast and we got so much going on. We know that this is a pretty fluid environment, so please feel free to unmute and share those tools. All right. Do we have another question?
I think we have two.
Pardon?
I think we have two more.
Okay, I just see to Aaron, did you see this one from Majine? How are you planning to communicate the tools that you've created to the clinics? That's a great question.
Oh, that is a good question. That is a great question. We're lucky in that the clinics we're working with now, we have some resources in clinic that are working there. So we're hoping that we've got also really engaged leadership as well in terms of management at those clinics, or one or the other. So we're going to email out, we have a template that we want the teams to use to start tracking their confirmation rates. We are going to pull the numbers and tell them, or some combination of each. So we're sharing that out with them in that way. But what we have really made the tool I was talking about was a checklist for our internal team to go through a panel. And these are people who have not been to panel identification training. We didn't have a lot of time to explain to them the concepts of panel, or some of them were usually doing more screening. So the tool we came up with was a quick panel identification criteria to say, when you're looking at a list of walk-in patients or shared care patients, how do you attach the most responsible provider before you can call the patient? So we're trying to find a way to do some patient attachment without the opportunity to do a whole lot of training with a bunch of different people. So I guess it's sort of a two-part answer. One is we shared the tool with our own internal team to get some panel cleanup done, because the clinics already have processes in place for non-walk-in patients. So by just moving the patients over onto that panel, now they're benefiting already. The other piece, we're sort of going in the back door with our LPN team. So if anyone has any suggestions for launching a tool to be used in clinic without the option to go in clinic and do an explanation, I'd be happy to receive that feedback, because we're sort of just figuring that out now as we go.
Good ask, Aaron. Right, great time to ask it, because there's lots of people here. So thank you. I see some of the themes that are coming in, and there's so much communication has come in from so many areas, and it really is hard to synthesize all that. And I also see leadership, lack of leadership. I think leadership support, I think, is what came up. Communication has been, you know, it's been challenging, and because things are changing so quickly.
I think there's a theme I've seen a couple of times about making sure that, you know, being able to communicate with clinic staff and MOAs and not just physicians and managers.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, some technology issues like remote access and lack of familiarity with technology.
And communication between physicians is another one. They're not working on the same day now. Some of them are, you know, splitting up and working separate days. So, you know, if we talk to one physician, we can't assume that it's gotten to everyone. Yeah. Still, silos exist. That was a big sigh. And yes, pause in proactive screening. We know that you know, labs aren't taking those tests; they aren't happening. So what happens? What happens next? So lots of gaps. Yeah, inconsistent strategies and information with clinics. And I know we've definitely seen that as well. We have two clinics that are across the hall in one building from each other, and they both have different signs out front explaining what the patient was supposed to do, and it's very confusing. Yeah, identifying COVID patients in the panel, it's been very difficult. Yeah. Yeah, knowing who they are in a timely manner. Yeah. The divide between clinical and QI work and people not seeing how it can be all integrated. Discharge from hospital, yes. And I'm just going to be conscious of time. And if we do have one more question, I think we'll move us on, Jill, if you're okay with that. Oh, here's another poll everywhere question. So have you taken advantage of any of the new professional development activities during this time? Yeah. So it's IHI and IHI Open School and AMA webinars look like they're going to be the toppers. Oh, AMA webinars have gone way in the lead. I know I joined one Friday that was excellent, just excellent.
Does anyone have a link to share for the Design Lab one?
No, that would be good to
Because
know.
I have heard good things about it too, actually.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten it.
And also, if you said others, Emily's asked to let us know in the chat which ones, so we can all join in them. I know I was at an AMA one on Friday it was excellent. It was really, really good. And there is the virtual design school. Nicole has put the link in there for everyone. So thank you for doing that. All right, yeah, share any of the resources you had. I know that was sort of our work at home, what, you know, to do PD if you know, had days that you weren't as busy. And I know for us and at the QI team at Leduc, Beaumont, Devon, as well as evaluation, so we're kind of all lumped into one team. We have been extremely busy trying to get everything pulled together. So we haven't had a chance. And again, Lori Choma said, if you did choose other, there's 20%, it's a big number, 19 dropped a little bit. What are some of the others that you have joined? Just chat them in, please. So Nicole's telling us there's 2 sessions left for the AHS Design Lab, but the previous sessions are on their YouTube page, so you can go back and see them. Oh, and it's Lori, a different Lori. Chewbacca, that's the one I was thinking. Sorry, Lori. All right. Coursera, Alberta Primary Care. Have people seen the Alberta Primary Care Explained module on the ACT website? Emily, do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Sure, yeah. So anybody who's taken practice facilitator training in the last maybe for 5 months will have come across it because it was part of the pre-work for training. But it is a module that's open to anybody, and it's actually CME accredited for physicians too, so you can always share it there. But the module walks through sort of the context of primary care in Alberta, and so it's a really good course that you can take for free. It takes maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hours to complete if you're looking for some more professional development opportunities. Helps build those practice facilitator competencies.
Thanks, Emily. And I know we've started to use some of them for new staff that join the PCN that are new to the PCN world. So it saves a lot of time trying to explain what the PCN was. So that's been really helpful for us as well. So, all right, do we have another slide? Oh, I'm going to check and just see if we've got any other hands up anywhere who wants to share some of their last words of Yoda wisdom before we end this. No, I don't see any more hands up, but maybe just chat in, everybody. The next webinar is going to be June 1st, and it's going to be on Teams. But I would just like, because our prediction for the PDSA cycle was that this is going to have a positive outcome, that we would have people raising their hands and participating, and we would hear more voices and get more ideas on the webinar. So if people could chat in whether they think that we should adapt. So you have 3 choices: adapt, adopt, or abandon our PDSA cycle. So go ahead and share that in the chat box and let us know what you think of our first this first PDSA on having it more interactive. Oh, we got 2 adopts. Oh, look at, guys, I think maybe it was a success so far.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And we're more than happy to hear any adapt and how you think we might adapt it.
So I don't know if that's a typo, but there's an adopt with both A and O in it. And I kind of like that in a way because, you know, we can adopt this idea, but of course it'll always have to be adapted to the subject or to the particular context or whatever. So I think we always have to adapt even if we adopt. So
excellent, good point. Again, I just would like to say that our next webinar is going to be on June 1st on Teams. Thanks everybody for joining us today. And thanks very much for everybody who shared their Yoda wisdom with the rest of the group today. Parting words, Angel?
Well, we got a couple slides just, with some parting words, as you say. So one thing was there's lots of resources on the PF Network website, and you probably have heard that it's moved just recently. So we've moved away from the PCNPMO.ca website. We're now on the act.albertadoctors.org website under the Networks of Practice section. So if you click on PF Network and learn more, that's where you can get to all of the resources and the discussion board, etc. Next slide. And if you want to join in on the Collaborate page, if you email into accounts@albertadoctors.org, then you will get signed up to get access to that information. So if you send an email to that address with Join PF Network Collaborate website, it'll get processed nice and quick. And if you could just add your name, your email, your contact number, where you work, and that you'd like to join the network, that would be great. And you'll get all the details back in an email. Next slide. Yep, so this one just shows sort of what the PF Network, the Practice Facilitator Network, offers. We have that Collaborate website we just talked about. We also will send emails to you on a limited number of occasions, but things will come from accounts@albertadoctors.org. And you can also email in any questions that you have to pfadmin@albertadoctors.org. And of course, we have webinars every month like today's, although today's was a little different if it's your first one. However, it sounds like we've got a lot of votes for adopting this style, so we will probably have more in the future. We're always doing that on the first Monday of the month, except for holidays, from 2 to 3 p.m. We usually take a break over the summer, but for the rest of the year, that's our plan. And one final poll everywhere for you. Let us know how you like the webinar today. There we go. I think you have to go in through the website actually for this one. So if you're trying to text in,
yeah, it looks like you do. Yeah.
A moment before we get any results if people are trying to get to the website. But
sorry, it might be on my end. It seems to not let me activate, but maybe you can either give us a thumbs up or let us know in the chat what we could do better next time.
Absolutely. And as well, if you wanted to email any suggestions or comments to that pfadmin@albertadoctors.org, we are always happy to hear those suggestions and comments and feedback as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everyone. That was fun. And I'm just gonna put that in the comment because it was fun. I just know how much I rely on this network for all the wisdom and the good work that's happening out there. And I'm sure like me, you guys have been busy through this. So yeah, I'm always looking forward to hearing what everybody else is doing. And I appreciate the fact that I can beg, borrow, and steal everything that you do as well. And I am happy to share what I have. So thanks, guys. And we'll end that for now.
Thanks, everyone.